he used to enter politics, the lie about President Obama's birth. That was a racist lie told to appeal to racists who had trouble sleeping at night.
Donald Trump is enraged at the moment, and Lawrence O'Donnell is solely to blame for it. O'Donnell appeared on television during a live broadcast, revealing financial secrets that he said were the foundation of Trump's multi-billion-dollar company in front of millions of viewers. And that was undoubtedly not well received by Trump. Calls demanding O'Donnell's termination and possibly shutting down the entire news network began to come in just minutes after the broadcast went live. However, what specifically did O'Donnell say that infuriated Trump? Given that Trump is the president, how is O'Donnell still performing? And does this entire situation point to something much more significant than a simple political dispute? Let's begin. However, how did it all begin at all? The night that made all the difference. Have you ever noticed how predictable the news may seem? You keep seeing the same faces, the same fights, and the same headlines, but suddenly something happens that forces you to pause and take notice. That's what happened on The Last Word on MSNBC. When Lawrence O'Donnell said something that left everyone in awe, millions of people were watching. He asserted that a source close to Deutsche Bank informed him that Trump's debts were co-signed by Russian oligarchs. Social media went completely haywire. The phones of everyone were exploding. Did he really just say that on live TV? Some were asking. This was not only another political argument. Trump was struck in the most painful spot by this. His entire persona is based on his wealth, his business empire, and his status as a self-made billionaire. And Trump sensed it right away. Within hours, his legal team returned with a vengeance. They accused O'Donnell of defamation, asked that he retract it, and began threatening legal action. In essence, the White House entered crisis mode. Take a moment to consider what this means. On national television, a news anchor recently implied that the president has financial connections to foreign oligarchs. That's explosive, not simply daring. A career could be ended if it's untrue. Everything changes if it's true. Trump certainly went into full-fledged attack mode after becoming enraged. Trump's rage erupted. Soon after, Trump's attorneys began composing legal letters. His social media accounts took off. Tweet after tweet denouncing MSNBC as fake news, accusing O'Donnell of being a complete liar and threatening to sue all parties. It sounded like a declaration of war. According to sources, Trump was completely losing it in private. He was phoning media contacts, allies, and even network executives to get answers. Why hasn't this individual been let go yet? The calls just kept flooding in, and the pressure was unbearable. O'Donnell made an effort to repair it. He apologized on air, stating that the story was still pending complete verification. However, that was ineffective. If anything, the fact that the harm was done made Trump even more irate. The clip had already been viewed by millions of people. The word was getting throughout the world. What began as a news segment evolved into a battle for dominance between a president with enormous sway and a TV personality with a microphone. In all honesty, it begs the question of whether a single TV line can truly unsettle someone. To what extent is their power truly solid? Trump's rage didn't go away after that. Things worsened. Because in Trump's universe, he will not forgive you if you publicly humiliate him. He follows you. The enmity that persisted. The thing is this. For years, these two had been at odds with one another. O'Donnell had been raising concerns about Trump's riches for a long time before to this program. He had made fun of his business dealings and criticized him for overstating his level of accomplishment. And each time, Trump retaliated with angry tweets, threats, and insults. It was similar to repeatedly witnessing the same nasty altercation. However, things were different this time. Words were no longer enough. Trump's well-cultivated reputation as a prosperous billionaire is being attacked. The persona he worked for decades to develop via novels, television series, and unending press attention. And it was simply intolerable to Trump. Trump reportedly told those close to him that he wanted O'Donnell fired. Not only gone from the air, but gone forever. He desired for MSNBC to use him as an example. Show everyone what happens when you criticize Donald Trump in public. The message was unambiguous. You pay for going over the line. On television, O'Donnell maintained his composure, but tension was rising behind the scenes. MSNBC had to strike a compromise between safeguarding its reporters and safeguarding itself. They gave him their hesitant backing. This rivalry eventually developed into something more than a two-person dispute. It became a conflict between speaking the truth and appeasing the powerful, between fear and free speech. The consequences and the deceptions revealed. Even after weeks went by, the story persisted. Additional information on Trump's financial situation began to surface. The tax returns were leaked. Offshore accounts were made public. Unidentified debts were discovered. O'Donnell's unsubstantiated story seemed less absurd all of a sudden. Even prominent news organizations began to make the connections. Everyone began to wonder, wait, was he actually right about this? Everything changed when the truth began to slowly come to light. Trump's indignation began to resemble panic more than righteous hatred. His persistent criticism of the media merely piqued interest. Every time he yelled fake news, the tale went viral on the internet. O'Donnell turned into something surprising, a representation of not being flawless, but of not giving up. Although his initial telling of the story was flawed, his willingness to question authority was commendable. That's what they recalled. That's what made the entire situation seem like an underdog, which people could relate to. The Trump camp attempted to spin it their way. They portrayed him as a victim of the media's bigotry. However, the more they yelled, the more their own narrative began to falter. It soon became clear that this was about more than one TV show. Control was at issue here. Manipulating the story, influencing public opinion, and stifling anyone who dared to challenge the official version of events. Because just think of how many people would rather keep quiet to protect themselves if speaking the truth could result in being threatened, sued, or sacked. That query leads us to the following event. Did Trump's threats succeed, or did they fail miserably? When truth and power collide. Here's an intriguing fact regarding power. It always appears invincible until it is actually contested. And that's what took place in this instance. Trump's warnings went beyond simple rage. They were about fear masquerading as fortitude. His desperate attempt to silence everyone who disagreed with him exposed a significant truth. This was no longer solely about Lawrence. The goal was to convey a message to all journalists, critics, and voices that could consider raising their voices. Here's the twist, though. Every attack, threat, and tweet promoting fake news just served to amp up O'Donnell's voice. It was like trying to douse a fire with gasoline. The larger the narrative, the more irate Trump became. MSNBC remained resilient in the face of pressure. People didn't forget, even when the news eventually shifted to the next disaster. The audience recalled that evening. They recalled the bravery required to speak up when others wouldn't, despite the potential consequences. And the evidence continued to accumulate over time. There are additional investigations, lawsuits, and leaked documents pertaining to Trump's business activities. O'Donnell's story suddenly seemed more like a warning of impending danger than irresponsibility. Trump and O'Donnell's altercation escalated beyond a simple media dispute. It became a mirror of modern-day America, when every statement causes conflict and every reality has a cost. Anger is not a fear of the truth. It has no fear of danger. Silence is the only thing that truth genuinely fears. And quiet. People such as Lawrence O'Donnell don't agree with that. What are your thoughts on all of this, then? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. Please click the like button and subscribe if you like this video so that you don't miss any more. Till the next occasion. I'll see you.